If you're not failing, then you're not pushing yourself beyond what you already know. So why not embrace failure as evidence of growth? Oh, it was a big experiment. And experiments aren't about being perfect. They're about learning and expanding and growing. The experiments did not all go as planned, but they taught me some lessons that I think you will find encouraging, hopefully. Welcome to Late Bloomer Living, the podcast where we're all about shaking up our ideas about what it means to grow older. I'm Yvonne Marchese, your resident age agitator and play instigator. Around here, we believe midlife is the perfect time to play, to reinvent, and bloom like you mean it. Let's go. Have you ever tried something new and felt like you were fumbling your way through it, sweaty palms, clunky first tries, bloopers, and all? That's exactly where I am right now as I try to figure out how to do YouTube at the age of 57. And in this episode of Late Bloomer Living, the podcast, I'm going to share my latest lessons learned as I try something new. I just got back from the Empowered Podcasting Conference in Charlotte, North Carolina. Mark Ronick hosted the event. It was his second year doing it. And man, he had an incredible support team that brought the whole thing together. It was my very first podcasting conference. And I also spoke on a panel for the first time alongside 3 other rock star podcasters. So while I was there, I decided to experiment with something new. I decided to try interviewing people in the hallways of the conference, like man on the street interviews. My idea was to see if I could create content for YouTube that would also work on the podcast in some way, shape, or form. I wasn't sure how. So in this episode, I'm going to take you behind the scenes of what it was like to attend, to speak, to try something new in real time. The experiments did not all go as planned, but they taught me some lessons that I think you will find encouraging, hopefully. Okay, so let's start with the panel. I joined Jason Sircone, Phil Better, and Karen Portnoy for a conversation about authentic storytelling, like really using your own story and using your foibles and all those things to help other people through your storytelling. So it was my very first time speaking at a podcasting event and my first time speaking in front of real live people. I do this online a lot, but not standing up live in front of people. I will say, once I got past the butterflies, it actually felt like, yeah, I belong there. So that was fun. Okay, so about those hallway interviews, I wanted to push myself to try a new format. Quick conversations with other podcasters, caught on the fly in the hallways. So I had my iPhone set up on a tripod to record the video, and I connected the phone to these wireless lavalier mics. You know, they're those little microphones that clip onto your clothing. So my goal was to experiment with video content that would translate well to audio so I could share it with everybody on YouTube and on the audio podcast. Okay, so this is key. I figured doing these interviews would force me to interact with people at the conference because here I tend to get shy in crowds. It sounded great in theory. In practice, well, let's just say it became an adventure. My very first interview Friday morning was with David Wilson, who hosts the On Another Track podcast. The interview went beautifully. We talked for about 5 minutes. It was my first time ever meeting him. The only problem is that when I went to play back the video, silence. Insert crickets. Not a single word. For those of you listening, there's some video playing right now, but just imagine me and another podcaster grinning, nodding, talking, oh yes, laughing, and absolutely no sound. So David was so kind. He actually spent about 15 minutes, which felt like hours, as the embarrassment started to make me sweat. He helped me troubleshoot, looking at the settings on my phone, trying to figure out anything that could have gone wrong. It all seemed to be hooked up properly. Before we realized that those little lav mics, those little clip-on mics, yeah, they were on mute the whole time, because the mute button on those things is also the same as the power button. Yep, true story. So we recorded again, and here's a little bit from that interview.
All right.
Take
What
two.
does this take 50,000?
No, take two.
Take
There we go.
50,000.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, we'll start with, what's your name?
So I'm David Wilson from On Another Track podcast.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. David has been helping me troubleshoot my tech inadequacies.
She did it all herself. I had nothing to do with it, but there we go.
So we're here at the Empowered Podcasting Conference. I'm interviewing people in the hallway, so you're going to see people going by, all the things. And the first question I want to ask is, why does your podcast exist? What is the purpose?
Oh, that's a big question. I would say because I was angry, right? And I needed to direct that anger, that energy into something really positive. So 5 years ago, I lost my job, and I was sitting there in a drafty garage thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And I thought, you know what? I'm going to leave a legacy. I'm going to start a podcast. So that was it. I got off to the races. And
What is the podcast about?
It's based about people, falling in hard times maybe, or maybe they've just lost a job like I did, or maybe they've had a disaster in their life. And it's really how they've coped with that and how they've readjusted things and got on another track. And that's where we got it from. So that's really about it. And also I believe that people can learn from other people's experiences. And so I thought it's important to get that information out there. That's the real purpose behind it. I have an expression in my podcast, everything is on the other side of fear, right?
Oh, yes.
So if you can take that big step and go through to the other side of fear, you look back and you think, oh, that wasn't so bad. And so what we're trying to encourage people is you're not alone. Listen to how this person solved it, and that might help you get to that step to jump through and be confident. And
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question I
Yeah.
asked before when our tech wasn't working.
Yeah.
And that question is, have you done anything playfully experimental with your storytelling on the podcast? And if not, why? And are you thinking about it at all?
Okay, so I remember saying that being a Brit, we're typically conservative compared to you Americans, and so we don't have that amazing energy sometimes that, we've got to be the biggest, the best. And I'm not saying you're there, Yvonne, but so for me, it's been a real culture change coming to North America. So, I've always been the one at the back just listening and quietly, contemplating. So to answer your question, no, I haven't done anything experimental or out there yet. I've been very conservative in the structure of my podcast, which I like. It gives me those boundaries that I really, I know where I am. However, I have started to interview riskier people who are maybe on the edges of society. And that's really taken me to places where I'm not always comfortable, but I go for the ride anyway. I should say.
I'd say that qualifies. I mean, that, to me,
Maybe.
to my mind, that is it. If you're
Yeah.
pushing yourself into a new territory in any way, shape, or form,
Yeah.
I think that's stepping into a little bit of experimentation.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for taking a
That's
couple
been
of
a pleasure,
minutes with me.
Yvonne.
Oh my gosh, you've been a doll.
I've enjoyed
Really.
every minute
Thank
of it.
you.
Really have.
Thank you.
Woohoo! Success. Isn't he great? Such a nice guy. Okay, so then, determined to continue on, I tried again. I met Shay Sparks. She's the host of the Shay Sparks Show. And I asked her if she'd like to be interviewed. She very graciously said yes. So this time, before doing the interview, I did a couple of test recordings. I double checked. Mic's on, sound working, off mute, great. So Shay and I had another wonderful 5-minute conversation. Imagine me standing there holding the mic, feeling proud that I'd fixed the sound issue, only to discover the little red record light had never come on. Yep, another rookie mistake. Well, Shay was totally gracious, and we did the interview again, and here's a clip from that conversation.
What is your name?
My name is Shay Sparks.
What's the name of your podcast?
The Shay Sparks Show.
Fantastic.
Of course, right? Yeah.
So it's an interview podcast, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me about something that you've done where you've monkeyed with the storytelling aspect of what you're doing, and how did that work out for you?
Yeah. So I interview military and business leaders on what it means to invest in people. Okay. Thank you. And I'm also a coach too. And I decided to, because I started to notice like a pattern. Like sometimes we're not kind, right? We're never kind to ourselves all the time.
Right.
And so I was like, and a friend of mine actually, we had a conversation, and unfortunately he was not kind to someone else. And I'm like, you know what? You're being a dick. And all of a sudden it like just came to me that could be an acronym. And so I started to use it as an acronym at the end of my episode. So I would interview the person, and then at the end, I would have a segment called Don't Be a Dick segment. And I use the acronym of disrespectful, inconsiderate, conniving, and know-it-all.
I love it. So it's a thing that you tack on at the end of the interview.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to do with like the main conversation. This is like an extra, and it's a coaching segment.
But I took pieces from what the conversation was about,
Yeah.
because somewhere in there, and that was like the fun treasure hunt to kind of pull out the piece,
Yeah.
that they were either being one of those things, disrespectful, inconsiderate, conniving, or know-it-all to themselves, or they were doing that to someone else. Oftentimes we don't even realize that that's who we're being.
Absolutely.
Right? And so it was just like, well, what would you do? And so it was having the conversation, talking about it to an imaginary person, right? My audience. But then putting the question and the challenge back to them, like, how would you have handled that situation? What would you have done? So in my segment, it was talking about, well, how often are you mean to yourself?
Right.
And how does that look?
Because it starts there.
Right, of course, right?
So, question for you: you did that as a series, I think you told
Yes,
me.
yes.
So, what did that feel like for you to kind of expand your normal?
Well, it's definitely out of my comfort zone. And it was definitely like, do I do this? Because what if someone takes offense that I'm saying, don't be a dick, right? And I have a lot of religious people in my community, so I was like, are they going to take offense to that? I really had to go back to, what am I being to myself? So am I being disrespectful and inconsiderate to myself by not posting this? How can I honor, I'm just the vessel, right? The conversation and the points that I was pointing out is the stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what we do as podcasters, right? Our voice is our legacy.
Right.
The story is the stuff, is the wisdom, is the goodness in it. We're just the vessels.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So, hopefully she hit record.
Shay's awesome. More about her later. And then on Saturday, little side note, my salty sister, Kat Corchado, showed up, and she was my conference buddy.
Hi.
What's your name?
Kat Corchado.
I know her name.
I know her too.
Yeah. So, what's the name of your podcast?
Sisters in Service and Why Not Wellness.
Love it, love it, love it. So, what has been what's the favorite part of this event so far, this conference so far?
Being here with you.
Oh,
Hi, buddy. But also seeing people that I've only heard on Clubhouse or, in some other platform, and seeing them in person, I think is the best.
yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Have you done anything playful and experimental with your storytelling lately? And if you did, how did it go? And if you didn't, are you thinking about it and holding back?
I try to be playful all the time. I try to interject some I don't know whether it's being authentic or just being playful, but you know me, I laugh all the time.
True,
So
true.
I feel like that's being playful in my podcast when I'm doing things, is to just be me, and in being me, I'm playful.
Yeah,
So I love it.
absolutely. Yes, you are. I love you. We also do another program together called Salty Sisters.
Yes, we do.
And that live streams on YouTube once a month, Fridays at noon on the first Friday of the month, usually.
Usually.
And we're playful there too, I would say, aren't we?
I think we play very well off of each other. See what I did there?
Yes, I saw that. I saw that. Sometimes we bring in guests, and so we have more salty sisters than just the two of us.
Absolutely, and that's fun too.
Yeah, that's
because we get
fun.
a different perspective. I get to play off of what Yvonne says, and then our guests, and it just works. It just does.
It does. It does. All right. Awesome.
Woo! Woo! Thanks.
I ended up not having time to do more interviews after that because I was doing photography for the event. And here's the thing. I could have let those mistakes make me feel like a failure. I also could have beat myself up because I didn't do more of those interviews. But frankly, I think I just, you know, when you go to order off the menu and your eyes are bigger than your stomach, I think that's what I had. I think I thought I could do more than I could do in the time that I had. Another lesson learned. The other thing is that I went into these interviews with the mindset of experimenting. In fact, I told them as we were doing these interviews that it was a big experiment. And experiments aren't about being perfect. They're about learning and expanding and growing. And I definitely learned a lot, and I made 2 new friends in the process. So I call that a win. Okay, so I mentioned that I didn't have time to do more interviews because I was doing photos. Another part of the weekend was that I volunteered as one of the event photographers. So a lot of my energy went into capturing panel sessions and candid moments in the hallways. And I got to meet and learn from the other photographer at the event. His name is Gil Dormius, such a nice guy, so talented. So what I was doing as I was there was trying to get shots of podcasters leaning forward on their chairs, panelists speaking passionately on stage, groups of people laughing, connecting between sessions. Being behind the camera gave me a whole new perspective on the event. And it made me feel even more connected to the community. Anyone who's worked with me as a photographer knows that I'm different when I have a camera in my hand. I get excited. I'm more outgoing and confident. I don't really know what happens. It's like a switch flips. So being an official photographer for the event made me kick things up to the next level when it came to meeting other people and connecting with people at the conference, and it made me feel helpful. So mission accomplished. Before I share my biggest lessons from the weekend, I just want to take a moment to talk up the conference itself because it was really something special. It's only the second time that Mark and his team have put this thing together. And it was incredible. I learned a ton. I made some fantastic connections while I was there. I'm not the only one who said this. It felt more like a family reunion than a business networking event or conference. Mark pulled together what felt like a real community of about 150 podcasters. And everyone there showed up with a generous spirit, ready to share their knowledge and ready to learn from others. Let me think. Jonathan Howard kicked off things on the first day on Friday. Friday was a full day of workshop sessions. So he was the first speaker, and he had us thinking about how to make podcasts that are unique and shareable, unique to us and shareable because they are unique. And then we jumped into improv games, which really got the energy flowing and broke the ice with everybody, I think. And from there, it was just off to the races. And the speakers honestly blew my mind one after another. Remember Shay Sparks from that earlier hallway interview? Well, she and her partner, Adam Bird, gave a great talk about building community as a podcaster. And I wish I could highlight all the speakers here, but I would just have to go on and on and on. Really, I learned something new at every session. So if you're a podcaster, or even if you've just been thinking about hitting that record button, I highly recommend that you join the Empowered Podcasting community, which is on Facebook, and also check out Mark Ronick's podcast Morning Chat. That's his podcast. So the way this works is, I don't know if you've heard of Clubhouse, but he goes live with a community of podcasters every Monday through Friday at 7 o'clock Eastern time. It goes from 7 to 8 Eastern time. And we talk about how to get better at podcasting. Mark shares trends and news. We laugh a lot and we learn a lot from each other. And then he takes those live conversations, and with the help of his producer, Ashley, they put it together as a podcast that goes out into the world so that people who are, living in other parts of the world can listen in. It's very cool. So look for the podcast Morning Chat, and I'll be sure to put some links in the show notes so that you can find the community in the podcast. So what did I learn from this whole experience? Number one, mistakes are part of the process. Muted mics, not hitting the record button. Yeah, they're little failures, but they're evidence that I'm trying something new. If you're not failing, then you're not pushing yourself beyond what you already know. So why not embrace failure as evidence of growth? Oh, okay. So I would say the next thing I took away from this is that playfulness makes all the difference. Instead of cringing when I made mistakes, I chose to laugh. And that laughter turned embarrassing moments into fun stories and connections with other people. Because ain't none of us perfect. The other thing I would see was a major takeaway was that community matters more than perfection. From David Wilson to Shay Sparks, who helped me troubleshoot my hallway interviews, to the other speakers, to the people who reached out to me after the conference to stay in touch. The event reminded me how generous and supportive independent podcasters are. Truth, fact. And most importantly, here's my number one takeaway. Do we have a drum roll? Brrr. You're never too old to try something new. At 57, I'm figuring out YouTube in public. It's clumsy, it's messy, but it's also exciting. And if you've been wanting to try something, maybe not podcasting, maybe not YouTube, but something, I hope this nudges you to start, even if it's imperfect. Big thanks to Mark Ronick for hosting such a thoughtful and welcoming event, and to my fellow panelists, Jason Sircone and Phil Better and Karen Portnoy. It was such an honor to share the stage with you. And of course, a very special shout out to my salty sister, Kat Corchado. Meeting new people with a buddy is always easier. So yeah, my first podcasting conference included speaking on stage, experimenting with hallway interviews, learning the hard way that pressing record is a very important step. Yeah. Overall, I'd call it a win. If you're watching on YouTube, I'd love for you to drop a comment with your best first time fail but learn something new story. And if you're listening on the podcast, send me a message on Instagram, or you can email me, latebloomerliving@gmail.com. There you go. I'd love to hear, what you've learned from your mistakes. Share with me. Don't leave me hanging out here. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. Until next time, bloom like you mean it. Keep experimenting and keep playing.